Iran is trying to cross the line even further. Now, it's not just about blocking oil. They're saying they'll take control of the undersea internet cables that run beneath the Strait of Hormuz. They're saying you need to pay a fee to use the internet. Today, let's examine this issue. Iran appears to be not only blockading the Strait of Hormuz, but also seeking control over undersea internet cables. Iran now regards undersea cables in the Strait of Hormuz as a national strategic asset, according to Pakistan Observer. Recently, Iran announced that it will assign the responsibility of supervising and managing the undersea cables in its territorial waters to an agency called the Persian Gulf Maritime Administration, which was established to control the Strait of Hormuz. This is a very serious issue. Multiple undersea cables run through the Strait of Hormuz, with at least 7 connecting Asia, the Middle East, and Europe beneath it. If this measure becomes a reality, all the cables that transmit massive amounts of global internet traffic and financial data will come under Iran's control. Fars News, which is affiliated with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, has suggested introducing a permit system and fees for internet cables under the Strait of Hormuz. According to Iran International, an anti-government outlet, Iran views the Strait of Hormuz as both a major energy and maritime hub and a digital pressure point. Policy Exchange, a British think tank, reported that over $10 trillion in daily financial transactions flow through submarine cables. Bank payments, stock trading, foreign exchange, and all financial activities vital to the global economy rely on submarine cables. So if an unprecedented situation occurs where Iran cuts the submarine cables, it's not just a matter of losing internet access. The entire financial system could be shaken. Right now, many of the countries using these submarine cables, like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, have built their wealth on oil money, so the damage is expected to be even greater. However, Iran remained firm. Iran's Tasnim Communications stated that no international group or telecom company can install internet cables or energy pipelines through the strait without Iran's consent and paying fees. They also took a hardline stance, saying that no country, commercial company, or shipping company has the right to operate merchant ships or energy carriers to Iran without paying transit fees and complying with the laws set by Iran. In reality, it is uncertain whether Iran will actually control the submarine cables passing through the Strait of Hormuz, and this statement may simply be an attempt to gain an advantage in negotiations. However, the very fact that such a statement was made has serious implications for us. Even now, analyses suggest Iran can endure longer than expected. The US CIA estimates Iran can withstand the US maritime blockade for at least 34 months. Some US officials are even mentioning the possibility that Iran could hold out even longer than that. The reason is surprisingly clear. Iran is no longer dependent on just one sea route. The US aims to cripple Iran's economy by tightening pressure in the Strait of Hormuz, but Iran is rapidly developing alternative land and Caspian Sea routes. The railway network linked to Central Asia is becoming crucial. While it's less efficient than maritime transport, it allows Iran to keep exporting crude oil. In fact, even within the US intelligence community, there is attention being paid to the possibility that Iran is transporting crude oil towards Central Asia using railways. And then there's also the Caspian Sea. Right now, Iran is operating 4 northern Caspian seaports as if they were in a state of war, running them 24 hours a day through these ports. Trade with Russia continues. Iran is sending crude oil to Russia, and in return, Russia is supplying Iran with essential food resources like wheat, corn, animal feed, and sunflower oil. The US and the West are imposing a maritime blockade, but Russia and Iran have established a new survival route via the Caspian Sea, where outside naval forces struggle to enter. Also, Russia is supplying Iran with drone parts through the Caspian Sea, helping Iran quickly rebuild its drone capabilities in this war. As long as the Caspian Sea isn't blocked, Iran can continue to hold out. It is reported that even the United States is currently having difficulty accurately grasping the scale of trade in the Caspian Sea. Most of the ships operating in the Caspian Sea are continuing to sail dark by turning off their automatic identification systems. Jurisdiction is split. Azerbaijan, Russia, and Europe fall under United States European Command, while Iran and the 3 Central Asian countries are managed by United States Central Command. This structure makes an integrated response difficult. Also, reports say Iran still has missiles and mobile launchers. According to the Washington Post, Iran currently possesses about 75% of its mobile missile launchers and about 70% of its missiles. There were reports during the current war that almost all of them were gone, but that turned out not to be true. However, President Trump has stated that Iran currently has only about 18% to 19% of its missiles compared to before the war. Iran's missile capabilities are still increasing. Iran once had many missiles buried in underground facilities by US and Israeli airstrikes, but now it's rebuilding those facilities and boosting its missile capabilities again. Iran continues to stall for time, which is a distinctive diplomatic strategy. Iran has done this several times before, trying to create a situation favorable to itself by dragging things out. Currently, Iran is buying time by prolonging negotiations with the United States. Even in response to the United States' negotiation requests, Iran has not put forward a clear official position. So far, Iran's official position has only been a general statement that they are reviewing the US proposal. In that situation, Iran delivered an even stronger message. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warned that if the US attacks their oil tankers or merchant ships again, they will strike US military bases across the Middle East. This is essentially a public threat of retaliation against the United States. US military bases are currently spread across the Middle East. Analyses continue to suggest that US facilities such as Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the naval base in Bahrain, and bases in Kuwait, the UAE, and Iraq are all within Iran's range. From Iran's perspective, this shows their intention to ensure that it's not just their homeland that gets attacked, but that the United States will also have to pay a price throughout the entire Middle East. In fact, the United States currently appears quite flustered. The US is facing a situation that is different from what it expected. At first, it seems the US believed that putting strong pressure only on the Strait of Hormuz would quickly destabilize Iran's economy. Iran's economy relies heavily on oil exports. The US expected that tightening the maritime blockade and blocking Iran's oil exports would sharply reduce Iran's foreign currency earnings and worsen its economic troubles. Over time, even in the US, attitudes have shifted as Iran holds out more stubbornly than expected. The biggest surprise to the US is the Caspian Sea and land route network. The US believed blocking the sea would cripple Iran's trade, but Iran quickly shifted to northern bypass routes. They use the Central Asia corridor to transport oil and goods and remain connected to Russia via the Caspian Sea. The problem is that the Caspian Sea is structured in a way that makes it extremely difficult for the US Navy or Western forces to intervene. That's because it's an inland sea where entry by external warships is virtually restricted. In other words, a space has emerged where the maritime pressure strategy, which the US has traditionally excelled at, doesn't really work. Additionally, as Russia and China become more active, the United States faces increasing pressure. As Russia and China are currently supporting Iran, the United States has imposed sanctions on a total of 10 individuals and companies for allegedly helping Iran procure weapon parts and raw materials used in the production of drones and ballistic missiles. It is known that several companies based in mainland China and Hong Kong are also included. As a result, the United States is not just dealing with Iran alone, but is now facing the entire network at the same time. Even in the US, some now believe Iran's economy isn't as dire as once thought. The earlier US belief that the blockade would make Iran collapse is wavering. Additionally, Iran keeps delaying the negotiations. The United States seeks a quick end to the conflict, but Iran is stalling, rebuilding its missile capabilities, and increasing drone production. From the US perspective, even though they're applying pressure, Iran isn't collapsing completely. Instead, it's actually managing to hold out. The issue is that the US midterm elections are approaching. If the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz continues like this and the war doesn't end, they could suffer a crushing defeat in the midterm elections. For President Trump, this is the worst case scenario. The blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is likely to cause significant damage, spreading beyond Southeast Asia to other Asian and European countries. If this happens, there is a high possibility that a global economic crisis caused by the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz will occur. Currently, Southeast Asian countries are on high alert due to a lack of crude oil. Next year, food shortages caused by a great famine could occur in many parts of the world. But the biggest problem is that we can't see any exit strategy.